Right. I'm off to deal with the fate of the planet. Be gentle with them.
Oh, you know me, Mark. Kid gloves, but made from real kids.
Okay, let me start off with saying I'm kind of sick. Actually, I'm getting better right now at the point of this recording. You may hear it in my voice that my nose is sort of clogged. But I'm getting better. I'm getting finer. Now to the actual video. I actually enjoyed Teen Wolf. Well, some parts and some parts not, especially later on. So before I really get into my opinions of the movie, I'm gonna say this: season 1 was not terrible of the show. It was a bit cheesy, but ultimately it found its tone and was kind of nice. The werewolf design sucked ass, and it was mostly played in the shadows, so you couldn't even make out the damn thing. The general mystery was still good, you know, back in season 1, and it was still finding its tone, so to speak. Season 2 was absolute dog shit. Season 2 brought in new characters like Kate. I really like Kate, and you can fight me on that. She's just a fascinating antagonist and all around just phenomenally acted. It's nice to have such an antagonistic force who's just unapologetically evil. But nothing can be said about the quality. The Kanima, the lizard thing, looked awful, and it reminded me of The Amazing Spider-Man, where the main villain was the lizard, and hey, it turned out the same visual effects guys worked also on The Amazing Spider-Man, and not only that, the same stuntman played the lizard as well as the Kanima in Teen Wolf Season 2. Season 2 sucked mainly because of the old hunter dude, Gerard, who's kind of interesting, but really dumb in execution. And as an old man, he also doesn't have that much of a force. And his villain plot is also stupid. Now, Season 2 had this whole thing about finding out who the Kanima is. Basically a repeat of Season 1, where it was like, who's the Alpha? Only that it was revealed that the Kanima is controlled by someone else, and that was some random teenager who was almost drowned in a puddle. And then he actually gets killed by Gerard, and Gerard takes over the Kanima. Anyway, doesn't matter. Season 2 was terrible. I don't know why I kept watching it. Probably because I watched it with my sister. And then came Season 3. Season 3 is probably the best season of the entire show. Both the A and B plot are tight as fuck. Now for Season 3 they changed it up a little bit by creating two plot lines that flow into each other. So you have the A half with an alpha pack. The main villain is cool. His henchmen are also kind of cool, but really the main villain steals the show every time, because he's like a blind werewolf, but he's not always blind, and you always have this feeling that he's really powerful. As a secondary antagonist who's like an evil druid, works also fine. And Season 3B, which most people talk about it as the best of the series that it ever produced, had the Nogitsune as main antagonist, a Chaos Fox, who basically causes chaos. And this is important for the movie because the Nogitsune is the main villain for the movie too. What made it fantastic is just Dylan O'Brien, who's not in the film, getting to flex his acting skills and being an evil guy, and how it fucked all around with the main characters. That was the main dynamic, because in the first season Scott isn't so much as the focus, rather it's Derek who's at first the focus, because Derek is an alpha, and then Scott later turns into an alpha. and that changes the whole dynamic of the A plot. Now the B plot is much more done greater because the villain is just better, the story is more tight, the characters feel better, and it ends with a major character death, which is Allison. Not gonna lie, I liked Allison. I found her kind of boring, and sometimes the relationship drama was kind of stupid because it got in the way of the main plot. Still, I was sad originally when she died in the show. Season 4, let's get to season 4, is almost as good as season 3, just a little bit worse. I still think it's great, and you can fight me on that too. Again, it had an A and B plot. The A plot was the benefactor, some evil guy who, or person, who hires a bunch of assassins on our main heroes, which creates this great conflict because you have all these different kind of hunters and monsters going after our protagonists, and it's just a different challenge of who they have to face in this episode or this episode. It also brings in the character of Malia, who had a one-off appearance in season 3, but now she gets to explore it as a full-fledged character. And here another side tangent, season 3 introduced Kira, Scott's new girlfriend, who was really important to the storyline of season 3, played by Arden Shaw, and she constantly got shafted by the writing team or whatever, and in season 4 she felt a bit purposeless. Season 4B had again Kate as main antagonist, and aside from some dumb shit like Scott turning into a bone warrior or Derek being turned into a teenager, yes, that's an actual thing that happened. Don't ask me why. It is so long ago that I don't really remember why he was turned into a teenager, but there's some funny scenes where it's like, oh, that's my cousin Miguel. And Kate and Peter were just engaging antagonists because they had already so much history with the main characters. Let's get on to season 5. Season 5 is dog shit from start to finish. The Dread Doctors are the main villains. They look cool. They look at first imposing, but they're just not that interesting. And there's a lot of hybrid stuff. Kelsey Chowers in for whatever reason in season 5. For those who don't know, Kelsey Chow is an actress that I like, but she was also already like 30 or in her 30s and still played a teenager, which doesn't make any sense. And that's the other tangent that I have to say. All the main woman or love interests for the first couple of seasons are severely older than their male casters. So Tyler 1 and Dylan O'Brien, they were both like 18 at season 1, while the actress of Allison, Crystal Reed, was in her mid-20s and almost 30, while Holland Roden, who plays Lydia, another important character that I don't have that much time for this first section to go into, was also like already in her mid-30s and or mid-20s and started to become 30s as the season went on. So they were just severely older, and it was one of the reasons why Crystal Reed ultimately dropped out of the show and decided to that her character is supposed to get killed off, because she felt uncomfortable having a romantic screen partner who's so many years younger than her. Back to the subject, season 5 is dog shit. Kira gets written out, and you think there's something coming for season 6. Nope. They just didn't know what to do with the character, and instead of thinking of something, they just wrote her out of the show. And what's worse, Arden Shaw, who plays Kira, thought she was gonna return for season 6, only to be then informed that nope, you're not coming back. Your character is not coming back. we know your story isn't finished, but you're not coming back. Then we get to season 5B, which is a Beast of Jordan. It's slightly better, but again, the werewolf design is so CGI and so terrible. It looks like a giant pit bull, and it's just bad, you know? It's not as bad as the first half, because the first half had also an annoying character named Theo. Many people like him, I don't, because Theo's sole purpose in the story was to be a disruptor to the whole team dynamic, and that just didn't make a fun experience. Also, after season 3, they tried really hard to emulate the feeling of season 3, and Teen Wolf season 5 was probably at its moodiest, I would say. Not necessarily darkest, but definitely moodiest, and flash forwards and broken character dynamics, and just it wasn't enjoyable to watch. Although the new cast wasn't terrible, you know. In season 5 they had a like a soft reboot, I would say, at least for the cast, because we got a bunch of new side characters, old side characters practically being forgotten. And yeah, and then we come to the last season, and it might surprise you, but the last season is dog shit. It's bad. There's well, the first half is okay, and you can always tell that kind of, like, I like Styles, but for me he wasn't never the most important character. He was just the most interesting because Scott himself is a rather bland, or not really bland, just a kind of boring character in comparison, because he doesn't have that much personality that Dylan O'Brien could exude from his own acting. So season 6 had largely no Styles, because Dylan O'Brien was busy doing a film, and this kind of fucked up the whole dynamic. The first half is okay with the it also has more Dylan O'Brien with the ghost hunters or ghost riders, until we get to the Nazi werewolf who wants to get to the, not a Nazi werewolf, Nazi werelion who wants to get to the powers of the ghost riders. Then it kind of falls off the rail, because I know we had before crazy geneticists and werejackers and chimeras and all that kind of weird stuff, but still a Nazi werelion felt out of nowhere, at least for me. Tell me your thoughts about that. And then we have the latter half. In the latter half, there's so much going on. There's a human hunter faction again. There's this weird thing that you can't look at, and I will not butcher its name. It's just, it turns people into stone, and similarly uses chaos and fear to become stronger. Like season 5 with the beast, it has two halves that are never meant to allow to conjoin again. And for me, what really puts it down is the whole relationship between Scott and Malia. It just didn't feel right for me. You know, there's this kind of mindset that says bros over hoes, and Malia had been dating Styles for the past couple of seasons, but there were some fans who were really dedicated to shipping, and not only shipping, but shipping the character of Styles with the character of Lydia, and this kind of overtook the direction. And once you removed Styles from the equation, Malia didn't have that much going on, because a lot of her arc was already finished in season 5. And for me, it's just, I didn't feel the chemistry, and it was also again this weird thing, because again, while the actor of Scott was by that point in his 20s, the actress of Malia, Shelley Hennig, was again much older and already in her 30s. So it was this weird age gap that you kind of have to blink out from their inner back of your head, and I personally couldn't, and I couldn't see those characters with anybody else. And this video is going way too long, so I'm gonna put this as a prelude to my actual Teen Wolf review, because long videos don't do that much, and I hope you enjoy this little thing here.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Okay, fuckity bye.